Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV Bond for the Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Here are your headlines for tonight.
President doubles down on eradicating corruption, warns officials of potential reprimands. President to lead party leaders' discussion tomorrow to deliberate impact of US tariffs. Trump's tariffs in effect from today. 104% on China. China slaps 84% reciprocal tariffs on the US. Detention order against arrested Pillan. Policeman who misled probe into 2018 murder of 2 police officers in Vaunathu also arrested. Is the land in Kathragama owned by Gotabaya? Former Pradeshya Sabha chairman questioned.
In Mangitane, Gotabaya Rajapaksa Namin, Tamai Lipi, Watura Dimata, Viduli Dimata, Lipi, Raganati.
Out of those stories in detail. Today, April 9th, 2025 marks the implementation of President Donald Trump's latest round of tariffs, a move that signifies a substantial shift in U.S. trade policy. These tariffs, part of a broader strategy to address trade imbalances and protect American industries, have sparked considerable debate and concern both domestically and internationally.
President Trump has justified these measures by citing the need to reduce the U.S. trade deficit and strengthen the nation's manufacturing base. China retaliated against the U.S. after new tariffs imposed by Donald Trump, announcing it would raise the tariff on U.S. goods to 84%, escalating the trade conflict between the world's 2 largest economies.
Imports to the US from China are now subject to a minimum 104% tariff. US President Donald Trump tacked on even higher tariffs than initially announced after Beijing didn't back off its promise to impose 34% retaliatory tariffs. Trump also signed an executive order tripling tariffs on goods worth less than $800 from China. This will impact Americans who order from sites like Shein, Temu and even AliExpress. Asian and European stocks traded lower and US stock futures tumbled after the tariffs hit. With several $1 trillion in the market value of US stocks wiped away in the week since Trump announced the tariffs, forecasts of an outright global recession have grown.
China has promised to take resolute and effective measures to safeguard its rights and interests, hours after US President Donald Trump's 104% tariffs on Chinese imports took effect on Wednesday. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian told a regular news conference that the United States is still imposing arbitrary tariffs on China and relentlessly applying extreme pressure. He said that China firmly opposes this and will never accept such domineering and bullying behavior. China and the United States have been involved in a game of tit-for-tat on trade, with Beijing standing firmly against each new tariff introduced by Washington. After the latest round kicked in on Wednesday, Lin told media that the United States needed to demonstrate an attitude of equality, respect and mutual benefit if it truly wanted to resolve the trade war through dialogue. Lin added that if the United States disregards the interests of both countries and the international community and insists on waging a tariff war and trade war, China will fight to the end.
Asian stocks plunged during Wednesday's trading session after President Donald Trump's latest batch of sanctions on China came into force, helping wipe off Tuesday's limited gains and compounding a turbulent week for the world's key indexes. The latest tariffs came into force with key Asian markets already open.
In Japan, the Nikkei index dropped more than 5% in response, while the broader Topix index slipped 4.6%. The Nikkei closed down 3.93% and the Topix down 3.4%. Stocks in Taiwan fell more than 5.7%. Singapore's STI index slipped 2.4%. South Korea's KOSPI index lost 1.8%. Australia's S&P ASX 200 lost 1.8%, and India's NIFTY 50 dropped 0.4%. Shanghai's SSE Shanghai Composite Index, which has fewer international investors and is buoyed by the state-owned investors known as the National Team, posted gains of 1.1% despite the new tariffs. US stock market futures indicated continued uncertainty despite the White House touting possible deals with as many as 70 nations seeking to avoid the impact of Trump's tariff campaign. United States stocks closed lower on Tuesday, marking a major reversal from a rally that sent the S&P 500 and Nasdaq up more than 4% earlier in the day. Trump has offered investors mixed signals about whether the tariff will remain in the long term, describing them as permanent, but also boasting that they are pressuring other leaders to ask for negotiations.
We're making a fortune with tariffs, $2 billion a day. Do you believe it? I was told $2 billion a day. You know, I get hit by the press about tariffs. We're making $2 billion. This isn't 35 million, that's peanuts. $2 billion a day. In addition, we have a lot of countries coming to see us. They want to make a deal. And we're doing things that nobody's ever even thought about. We're going to hold up. This bill that we're working on now is the best I think we've ever passed. I think it's the best thing we'll get it passed. But I think it's going to be the most important thing we've ever passed. It's the best thing we've ever passed. And I do think that the war with the world, which is not a war at all, because they're all coming here. Japan is coming here as we speak. They're in a plane flying, lots of them, all tough negotiators. But things that people wouldn't have given us 2 years ago, wouldn't have even thought of it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7, they're giving us everything. They don't want tariffs on themselves. And it's very simple. We're making deals and people are paying tariffs. Countries are paying tariffs. Right now, China's paying a 104% tariff. Think of it, 104%. Now, it sounds ridiculous, but they charged us for many items 100%, 125%. Many countries have. They've ripped us off left and right. But now it's our turn to do the ripping. That's okay. We're going to make our country even stronger than it ever was.
Trump's administration has scheduled talks with South Korea and Japan, two close allies and major trading partners, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is due to visit next week. The Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam is set to talk with Trump's Treasury Secretary. The prospect of deals with other countries had pushed stock markets up earlier on Tuesday, but US stocks had ceded their gains by the end of the trading day. The full effects of Wednesday's tariffs may not be felt for some time, as any goods already in transit as of midnight will be exempt from the new levies as long as they arrive in the United States by the 27th of May. Trump's earlier across-the-board 10% tariffs on all imports from many countries began last Saturday.
President Anurukumara Dissanayake is set to meet with all party leaders tomorrow to discuss the pressing issue of US tariffs. This announcement was made by Minister Bimal Ratnayake in a message on X. In his message, Minister Ratnayake mentioned that earlier this morning, 12 opposition leaders requested a meeting with the President to address this critical matter.
We need
to understand that this is not a targeted tariff imposed by the US on a specific country. Instead, it is a general policy applied to all countries with trade deficits. Essentially, the US has imposed a tariff on a portion of the goods imported from any country with a trade deficit. This is a new and unprecedented approach in global economic and tax policy, and it has already proven to be highly impractical. Our international trade opportunities and the ability to negotiate suitable trade agreements have been compromised. We have missed chances to expand our trade with various countries and to secure appropriate trade agreements. Our export composition has not been diversified, and we have not adapted our product mix to different markets, placing our country in a very precarious position. We are facing three major crises: the trade deficit, the budget deficit, and the debt burden. We need to address these challenges seriously and take appropriate action.
President Anurukumara Dissanayake emphasized that if the official mechanisms to combat bribery and corruption do not promptly align with the correct procedures, legal action will be taken against such officers after May. Speaking at an event in Colombo, the President stressed the importance of everyone coming together to put an end to bribery and corruption in the country.
The 2025-2029 National Anti-Corruption Action Plan was unveiled at the Presidential Secretariat under the leadership of President Anura Kumara Dissanayake. The event was attended by key officials including the Secretary to the President, members of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, the Chief Justice, the Attorney General, the Acting Inspector General of Police and the Governor of the Central Bank.
There are established institutions in place, but there are also unofficial entities that protect bribery and corruption. These unofficial entities are often created by political authority. At the top of these corrupt structures is political power. Next, we have a small number of officials within the administrative service, which includes 2,400 representatives, and the police department, which has 84,000 members. Isn't that right, Inspector General? Yes, they are there. Additionally, while our country has very clean businesses, there are also unscrupulous businessmen who have become multimillionaires over the past decade and a half. Whether we like it or not, there is growing public suspicion about the institutions that enforce the law. This is the reality. If we do not openly discuss these issues today, what is the point of our efforts? Below these corrupt structures are armed criminals who operate within this network. Therefore, this is not merely a problem of individual bribery or corruption. It is a deeply entrenched system that has established itself as a criminal network. What are we facing then? I am ready to tell you that no matter how hard they try to emerge, we will dismantle these illegal structures centered around bribery and corruption. Do not doubt this. We have been in power for 6 months now, observing and waiting for change. I have never aimed to cripple any institution suddenly. However, I have been watching for over 6 months, and if there is no readiness to change, we will make the necessary changes after May. Shouldn't we do this? If anyone thinks that they only have little time left in service and should avoid unnecessary entanglements, they are mistaken. I know how to work and the mindset required. Some may have a short time left before retirement, maybe a month or a year. Why get involved in unnecessary troubles? They would want to leave as they came. If you continue as you are, then leave. If you have a short time left, do your work within that time. We must educate the citizens of this country that wealth and power are not tools to escape the law. Tell us what you need to strengthen your institution. Your commission asked for an office and we provided it. You asked for higher salaries and we increased them. If you need more facilities, we will provide them. That is our government's responsibility. However, the responsibility for managing these operations lies with you. Do not let criminals become the norm. We have no personal grievances with anyone. There is a widespread discussion now about revenge and political retaliation. This is not about revenge. Personally, I have no disputes with anyone, but I have a case to resolve. The people's case.
The National Anti-Corruption Action Plan aims to transform the country into a clean and orderly nation. Under this plan, the Presidential Secretariat, along with all state institutions, will establish internal affairs units. These units will be monitored through digital technology to ensure transparency and accountability.
In a country where people think it is acceptable to steal as long as roads are built, mere punishment alone cannot prevent corruption. If we can cultivate individuals who have the integrity to reject what is not rightfully theirs, we will need fewer investigations and prosecutions in the future. Together with the Presidential Secretary, we have already informed all state institutions through a circular to establish internal affairs units.
හැම දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවකම අභ්‍යන්තර කටයුතු ඒකකයක් හදන්න internal affairs unit එකක්. අපිට මෙන්න මේ අභ්‍යන්තර කටයුතු ඒකක හරහා
Through these internal affairs units, we can empower citizens. If someone witnesses misconduct, corruption or delays, they can act immediately through these units. This is why we are establishing these internal affairs units.
ඔහුට මේ අභ්‍යන්තර කටයුතු ඒකක හරහා ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්න. අපි ඒ නිසා තමයි මේ අභ්‍යන්තර කටයුතු ඒක පිහිටවන්නේ.
Former chairman of the Kataragama Pradeshiya Sabha Ashoka Wickramasinghe was released on bail today following his arrest. This decision came after he was produced before Tissa Maharama magistrate Tharindo Samira Silva.
Ashoka Wickramasinghe was arrested by officers from the Criminal Investigation Department in connection with allegations of falsifying documents related to a house belonging to the Rajapaksa family in Kataragama. The court ordered his release on 2 surety bails of 5 million rupees each and imposed a travel ban on him. Additionally, the court has ordered the immediate arrest and presentation of L.A. Vimalaratne, the former deputy chairman of the Sri Lanka Transport Board, who is alleged to have overseen the construction of the said house. Ashoka Wickramasinghe is also a candidate for the upcoming local government elections representing the Samagi Janabalawegaya party.
Today, I was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department at my residence in connection with a property believed to be owned by Gotabaya Rajapaksa. What I have done is simply fulfilled my duties as a chairman of a Pradesh Sabha. What I carried out was a responsibility that should be fulfilled for every citizen, for every person in every village. This means issuing letters with no objections to providing water or electricity. Access to basic human rights such as water and electricity is what I have been facilitating. Up until today, I have not done anything involving any approval or authorization to sign anything. Apart from signing it, I have not granted any approval or done anything else up to this day. Honestly, we don't really know who owns this land. When the documents were issued, I believe they were taken under the name of Gotabaya Rajapaksa for the purpose of obtaining water and electricity. This incident happened 15 to 20 years ago. So, we do not know who came to get them signed or exactly what was done.
Police says measures will be taken to detain and interrogate former State Minister Sivanesathurey Chandrakanthan, alias Pillayan, following his arrest last night in Batticaloa.
Sivanesathurey Chandrakanthan, also known as Pillayan, was arrested last night at the party office in Batticaloa by a special team from the Criminal Investigation Department. Following that, he was brought to Colombo. The former state minister has been detained in connection with the abduction and enforced disappearance of Professor Sivasubramaniam Ravindranath, the Vice-Chancellor of the Eastern University, on December 15, 2006.
A police constable has been arrested in the Karadiana area in connection with allegations of misleading the investigation into the 2018 murders of 2 police officers in Vaunathivu. The police constable is accused of diverting the investigation by falsely claiming that a jacket found at the scene belonged to the LTTE. This misdirection allegedly hindered the investigation process. The incident dates back to the 30th of November 2018 when 2 police officers were killed while on duty in Vaunathivu, Batticaloa.
Former Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwala was summoned to the Criminal Investigation Department this morning.
Former Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwala was summoned to the CID to provide a statement regarding allegations of purchasing substandard human immunoglobulin vaccines. The CID stated that he was questioned about several related cabinet decisions. Former Minister Mervyn Silva has been remanded until the 21st of this month. This decision was made by Magistrate Kanchana N. Silva after he was presented in court today. The magistrate issued this order while rejecting the bail application submitted by Silva's attorney. Additionally, 3 other individuals accused in the same case have also been remanded until the 21st of April by the magistrate. The former minister and the 3 others were arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department on the 6th of March in connection with the sale of a government-allocated land to a private buyer. Furthermore, Magistrate Silva issued warrants today for the immediate arrest of former State Minister Prasanna Ranavira and another individual who are currently in hiding and are suspects in this case.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
Tokyo Super, all of it super.
A media briefing themed Let Justice for Victims and Punishment for the Accused of the Criminal State Begin at Batalanda was held in Colombo today. It was organized by the organization Call for Justice.
Now, the SLPP, the UNP and the Samagijana Balawegaya have come together in a disgraceful manner to shield Ranil Wickremesinghe over the Batalanda issue. They are protecting him by covering up all the serious allegations against him. We firmly believe that the law must be swiftly enforced and that Ranil Wickremesinghe, the so-called Batalanda torturer, must have his civil rights revoked. As recommended in the report, he must certainly face a prison sentence proportionate to the severity of his actions.
The
crime of murder in the criminal law code is never considered outdated. Therefore, if evidence regarding a murder can be found during investigations at any time, there is a possibility of punishment following a trial. This is why the case is not considered old or expired. Similarly, the current government holds 2/3 of the power, and the Batalanda Commission's recommendations clearly state the need to amend the Criminal Procedure Code and other relevant laws, as well as to establish the necessary legal provisions. Therefore, when the government holds 2/3 of the power, if necessary, amendments can be made to these laws, even though the statutory of limitations may apply to other offences. If necessary, there is still the possibility of imposing punishment. Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is the main mastermind behind this, must be taken into custody. Although his name is not directly mentioned in these reports, he played a key role, particularly in the illegal allocations of houses in the Batalanda housing complex to police officers. Moreover, during that time, under the guise of crime suppression, senior police officers were summoned to the Batalanda housing scheme, where highly unlawful meetings were conducted. It is clearly stated in the report of the Commission that Ranil Wickremesinghe was directly involved in giving instructions necessary for abducting youth, subjecting them to torture and ultimately killing them within the Batalanda housing complex. It is also stated in the Commission report that the house used as Ranil Wickremesinghe's main office, which is located in Batalanda, was one of the residences illegally used for abducting, assaulting and killing the youth. Accordingly, it is very clear that these brutal killings in Batalanda did not happen without Ranil Wickremesinghe's knowledge.
ඒ අනුව තම පැහැදිලි රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ නොදැන නෙමෙයි මේ බටලන්දේ මේ ක්‍රූර ඝාතන වුණේ.
The Batalanda Commission report.
In recent weeks, Newsfirst revealed the details of numerous crimes committed within the torture chamber at the Batalanda housing complex as detailed in the Commission report. According to the Batalanda Commission report, special meetings involving police chiefs were held in houses located within the housing complex and nearby. The Commission report reveals who convened these meetings and summoned the police officers. Translated excerpt from the Batalanda Commission report.
These meetings were held in 2 houses within the Batalanda housing scheme. One of these houses was occupied by Ranil Wickremesinghe, while the other was located in front of the tourist bungalow. It was an isolated house and Wickremesinghe presided over the meetings held there.
End of excerpt. Another serious revelation made before the Commission is as follows. Translated excerpt from the Batalanda Commission report.
Wickremesinghe's security officers stayed in this secluded house, which was situated in front of the tourist bungalow. The house, identified as number B2, was clearly mentioned in the records of the State Fertilizer Manufacturing Corporation presented before the Commission. Wickremesinghe himself admitted that his security officers were provided accommodation in house number B2. According to witness T.M. Bandula, he was detained in this house before being interrogated. This indicates that individuals were unlawfully detained and tortured in these houses. The circumstances suggest that these meetings were connected to the establishment and operation of illegal detention centers and torture chambers.
End of excerpt. The Commission also questioned Ranil Wickremesinghe about the meetings held at the Batalanda housing complex, and his responses are documented in the Commission report. Translated excerpt from the Batalanda Commission report.
Our observation regarding Wickremesinghe's testimony is that his answers were evasive.
End of excerpt. Many more details can be easily discerned by those who thoroughly examine the Commission report. Isn't it now necessary to conduct a proper investigation and ensure justice is served?
The battle of the Commission report.
News First with the people.
The ADB's Asian Development Outlook for April 2025 predicts Sri Lanka's economy will grow by 3.9% in 2025 and 3.4% in 2026, building on a strong recovery in 2024.
The Asian Development Bank's Asian Development Outlook for April 2025 projects moderate economic growth for Sri Lanka, with GDP growth expected to reach 3.9% in 2025 and 3.4% in 2026. This follows a strong rebound of 5% in 2024 after a severe contraction of 9.6% over the previous 2 years.
The government and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka have taken bold steps in the recovery journey. 3 IMF reviews were completed successfully. Restructuring of domestic, bilateral and commercial debts has been almost completed. Inflation has been tamed. The rupee appreciated for 2 consecutive years. Foreign reserves have built up to over 3 months of imports, and the primary balance recording a surplus for the 2nd consecutive year. The severe contraction of GDP by a cumulative 9.6% in the past 2 years, or 2022 and 2023, turned into a remarkable growth of 5% in 2024. We believe the foundation for sustained economic growth has been built. Despite these achievements, the recovery remains fragile.
Dinuk De Silva, Senior Economics Assistant at the Sri Lanka Residence Mission ADB, discussed the inflation outlook for Sri Lanka.
Coming into Sri Lanka's case, we expect inflation to accelerate to 3.1 in 2025 and 4.5 in 2026. Although inflation has been negative for the first 3 months of this year, we expect it to return to positive levels in the near future. Key drivers would be an expected hike of electricity tariffs, improved credit, higher imports, wage increases, and expected rupee depreciation.
Lily Alexander, Senior Country Economist at the Sri Lanka Resident Mission ADB, addressed the impact of new US tariffs on Sri Lanka.
The US, as you know, announced that it will impose a minimum of 10% tariff on imports from trading partners. For economies running bilateral surpluses vis-à-vis the US, including Sri Lanka, a formula was used by the US. It was based on trading partners' bilateral surplus with and exports to the US, and that means that some will face tariff rates much higher than just the 10% announced for trading partners. And that you can see on this chart, which we present the tariff adjusted with exemptions and the tariff rate without exemptions. So developing Asian economies are among the hardest hit. Of the top 10 highest tariffs globally, 5 are in developing Asia. That's Cambodia, 49%, Laos PDR, 48%, Vietnam, 46%, Myanmar, 44%, and Sri Lanka, 44% as well. And this figure shows that the tariffs for all ADB developing member countries, including those who got just 10% tariff.
Lakshani Fernando, Senior Economics Officer at the Sri Lanka Residence Mission ADB, emphasized the potential challenges for Sri Lanka's export sector.
What we would expect is for buyers to look outside of Sri Lanka, given the 44% tariff, expecting it is fully implemented. And we would expect producers to look at countries outside with lower tariffs. And there are some significant ones like Mexico, quite close to the US, Brazil, and even India. We would expect a slowdown in export-oriented manufacturing sector driven by the lower production. And we would expect worsening investor confidence, and this would lead to potential lower foreign direct investments and, more significantly, lower capital expansions for the domestic factories that are currently operating in Sri Lanka. And what, at the end of the day, this would mean is that corporates would also look at how they could bring down their costs, resulting in probably a certain number of layoffs as well.
SAP Business Unleashed Innovation Day was held in Colombo, exploring SAP's bold new vision for enterprise management that combines AI, data and applications. The Capital Maharaja Group was a key participant of the event.
With a bold new vision to reshape enterprise management through the integration of AI, data and cutting-edge cloud applications, the SAP Business Unleashed Innovation Day brought together industry leaders, tech pioneers and visionaries under one roof.
This exclusive event is set to showcase SAP's bold new vision for enterprise management, one which combines with AI, data and also powerful cloud applications. At the same time, this event features key sessions focused on how businesses can harness SAP's latest innovations to solve their complex challenges and also to accelerate decision making with confidence.
The data science can implement whatever data is available within my BDC. They can access and they can create a lot of models on top of it, AML models on top of it. And then once that output is generated, it can go back, hit DataSphere, and then it can be visual.
You open Joule in SAP S4HANA and you can apply a leave in SAP SuccessFactors. So that's the integration capabilities what we are talking about. So it's a single instance of Joule which would be surfacing across the solutions.
Businesses today are also facing massive headwinds. Just like the Burj Khalifa Tower, they are facing issues around macroeconomics. Our favorite term in SAP nowadays is TTT, which is Trade, Tariff and Trump.
The keynote address of the event was delivered by Rahul Baheti, the Chief Operating Officer of SAP Indian Subcontinent.
I am 100% confident that in 2025, Sri Lanka's GDP will be ahead of most of the developed economies in the Europe. And for India, I think it will be the first year where we will try to actually overtake China in terms of GDP. And if this really happens, I think there is nothing that can stop us from growing and becoming an extremely powerful Indian subcontinent comprising of India, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. SAP's strategy has been very simple. We want to rise and grow together with our customers and partners. When it comes to data, again, everybody has heard that data is a new gold mine. But how many of us really know how to extract the gold from this mine? And how many of us have actually used that gold to improve our own lives? See, this is where SAP's data strategy actually plays an important role, because the unmatched data that comes out of all the applications can be married with the unstructured data that is going around in the system, whether it is from non-SAP sources or the unstructured data coming in from various social platforms. This can be brought together to give you meaningful insights and help you in decision making.
Representing the Capital Maharaja Group, which was a key participant of the event, Group Director of CMG, Ashini Mudalige, took the stage to share insights, highlighting the group's commitment to staying at the forefront of digital transformation.
There is no choice. For survival and to get the competitive edge, you need to join the transformation process. So the way I see it, cloud ERP is a must, business AI is a must, real-time data-driven decision-making is a must. In fact, at Capital Maharajas, the digital transformation strategy was led by the chairman himself. It's that important. We need to catch up on what we missed. We need to be competitive globally. So to do that, I feel we need to be on cloud ERP because of rapid scalability. If you need to go and join new markets, or if you need to merge or acquire businesses, or even innovate, you need to have the technology. Otherwise, you have to be able to invest in massive infrastructure and spend time in implementing and doing stuff like that. We don't have that luxury anymore. We need to be able to flex very rapidly, and that facility is there in cloud ERP. Then also there are advantages when it comes to innovation. We have the business AI, Joule in SAP. Then there are some interesting features like the chatbots, which will sort of give us the cost efficiencies and the productivity. So that is a competitive advantage that will be very welcome.
SAP Business Unleashed Innovation Day also featured expert panel discussions, customer best practices sessions, interactive demos and networking opportunities for all participants.
At least 98 people have been killed and more than 150 injured after a roof collapsed at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic's capital, Santo Domingo.
A catastrophic roof collapse at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic's capital, Santo Domingo, has left at least 98 people dead, including a provincial governor and former Major League Baseball pitcher Octavio Dotel. Authorities have confirmed that at least 160 other people are injured and some 400 emergency crews are still working to find survivors amid the rubble as families of the victims gathered at the site searching for their loved ones. Efforts to rescue those trapped under the debris are continuing, though the exact number of people inside the Jet Set nightclub at the time of the collapse remains unclear. Local media said the roof collapsed during a concert attended by politicians, athletes and other prominent figures. Between 500 and 1,000 people were reported to have been in the club when disaster struck. The cause of the roof collapse remains under investigation.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1.
Thank you for watching. Good night.
Night.